I pick him up like this. I go down and I lift. Oh! And this is how I can carry him anywhere I go. Tell him why you're so happy with me. Just tell him how gorgeous I am, how pretty I am. I'm gorgeous, I'm pretty.
Bite me.
Don't do that, Dakota. She's just trying to play.
Over the past few years, TikTok has become home to countless toxic couples who document every moment of their chaotic lives for thousands of viewers. But few have built a reputation quite like Dakota and Felicity. Meet Dakota and Felicity, a couple who have become notorious on TikTok for their seemingly endless cycle of drama. Dakota is a 21-year-old man with dwarfism, while Felicity is a 21-year-old woman whose erratic behavior has led many online to speculate about her mental health, though no diagnosis has been publicly confirmed. Throughout their relationship, Felicity's been accused of cheating on Dakota multiple times. One of the most controversial incidents occurred when she left him for a man named Robert. According to public records, Robert is around 30 years older than Felicity and is a registered offender with convictions involving. Felicity spent nearly a month living with him after publicly announcing that she had left Dakota. When she eventually returned, her explanation changed more than once. She initially told Dakota that she had been staying with her family. Later, she admitted she had been with Robert but claimed she had only used him for money and that nothing romantic had happened between them. Despite the conflicting explanations, Dakota took her back without much public resistance, setting the tone for what would become a relationship defined by repeated breakups, reconciliations, and seemingly endless chaos.
I used him for money. Tell him, Dakota. Who came back to you? When is our 10? Was our 10-month anniversary? Was I late for our 10-month anniversary? Yeah, I was. So y'all people need to keep my goddamn name out of y'all's goddamn mouth before I sue y'all.
And remarkably, that was one of the least shocking chapters in their relationship. Over and over again, the couple would break up amid accusations of infidelity or even more serious allegations, only to reconcile days, or sometimes even hours, later before repeating the entire cycle. Their on-again, off-again relationship became so predictable that it turned into a running joke within the community. Many viewers openly admitted they were waiting for the next breakup, knowing that another dramatic reconciliation would likely follow shortly afterward. The constant cycle of cheating accusations, public arguments, and reunions became the defining feature of Dakota and Felicity's online presence. But Dakota's life before he met Felicity appears to have been a very different story. Based on photos from around 2013 and 2014, Dakota seemed to be living a relatively ordinary life. He appeared close to his family, including his mother and siblings, and there is little public evidence of the kind of chaos that would later come to define his online presence. While there are no publicly available photos or information about his father, his mother appeared to be actively involved in his life and caring for him. Despite this, Dakota struggled with one issue that would have a profound impact on the course of his life. He was easily influenced by the people around him. While he was still in school, he began associating with the wrong crowd, experimenting with drugs, and becoming involved with gang culture. Although his family did everything they could to help him, they eventually reached a breaking point. One of Dakota's cousins later explained the family's perspective in a comment online. Dakota's cousin here. Everyone has helped him. We get him on his feet and then he falls again. There comes a time that people can't help all the time. We have families, some are bigger than others, that at the end of the day we have to take care of. So I'm happy if he changes, but I just have my doubts. There also appeared to be another factor. Dakota struggled with living in a household that had rules and expectations, and his family, who had other children to look after as well, didn't want his ongoing drug issues affecting the rest of the household. After leaving his family's home, Dakota essentially became homeless and began living on the streets. At just 18 years old and with dwarfism, his circumstances were especially difficult. Homelessness is challenging for anyone, but Dakota's age and physical condition likely made day-to-day survival even more difficult. Everything changed in 2023 when a man known online as Crazy K came across Dakota while driving. According to Crazy K, he initially thought Dakota was a lost child because of his stature. Curious, he began filming the encounter after Dakota approached his car and asked him for a cigarette.
What you doing out here by yourself? You said I got a what? A cigarette? Where your parents? I ain't getting you no cigarette.
And then, completely out of nowhere, this video would change everything. After the clip went viral on TikTok, it caught the attention of Crazy K, who tracked Dakota down and started filming content with him. Just like their first collaboration, nearly every video they uploaded exploded in popularity, with the pair racking up a combined 15 million views in just their first week together.
Yeah, I found little Dakota. Y'all say he 18. I said, Carsey.
With their newfound viral success, Crazy K decided to let Dakota move into his house, giving him a place to stay. On the surface, it seemed like the perfect outcome. Dakota had been homeless and struggling for months. So many viewers were genuinely happy to see someone finally offering him shelter. One comment summed up the public's initial reaction perfectly. "You all cool as hell for being good to him. Bless you all." But that positive perception wouldn't last for long. As more videos were uploaded, criticism of Crazy K began to grow. Many viewers accused him of exploiting Dakota's situation to roll for views rather than genuinely helping him. People pointed to videos where Dakota was made to do bizarre stunts or was physically handled for comedic content, including one clip where he was put inside a cardboard box. The accusations became widespread enough that Crazy K eventually addressed them in a Facebook post, denying that he was taking advantage of Dakota. He wrote, "People on TikTok and Facebook keep saying me, and the gang using Dakota. Nah, we helping him something you all wish would have done. It's being done now. He got money, food, new clothes, and friends. He is signing up for school tomorrow. We don't take, we give." Although it was undoubtedly an improvement that Dakota finally had a stable place to stay, the conditions inside Crazy K's house left much to be desired. The home appeared cluttered and unsanitary, with trash and spoiled food visible throughout. Calling it simply dirty would almost be an understatement. But the condition of the house wasn't the biggest concern during Dakota's stay. Crazy K himself was an extremely controversial figure. He had a history of violent incidents and legal trouble, including serving prison time after and wounding his ex-girlfriend. His reputation, combined with his frequent drug-related content and behavior, led many people to question whether he was the right person to be looking after Dakota. Under Crazy K's influence, Dakota's own behavior became increasingly concerning. He appeared to drink alcohol more frequently, was often accused by viewers of looking intoxicated or under the influence on camera, and was even shown purchasing liquor from a store despite being only 18 years old, below the legal drinking age.
He thought you meant some liquor. You thought you meant some liquor? Bro said he was in the drink. He said, "Oh, it's on the drink." Oh, that's the liquor. We can't buy you liquor.
Due to this, Dakota's health was deteriorating day by day, to the point where he was coughing and looking clearly unhealthy anytime he appeared on camera.
What's wrong with Dakota? Man. You alright, little man? I don't know, man. Can't hold himself together. You throwing up?
Dakota was also becoming more and more obsessed with the Bloods gang, oftentimes throwing gang signs, and as well as hanging out with people he clearly shouldn't. Crazy K was also taking Dakota to nightclubs, where Dakota was seen dancing and doing inappropriate things with women who worked there. And if this wasn't already bad enough, Crazy K was often completely intoxicated and would frequently act aggressively and harshly toward Dakota. Eventually, Dakota's stay with Crazy K would come to an end after Crazy K accused Dakota of stealing items from him.
I always knew one day me and Dakota would depart.
Alright, Crazy K. Thank you for everything you've done for me. I'm gone, bro.
Alright, my man.
Dakota's situation would get even worse after being kicked out of Crazy K's house, as he suddenly had nowhere to go. However, fortunately for Dakota, he managed to find an abandoned house where he began living alongside other homeless people. But even this came with its own set of problems. Although living in the abandoned house was still better than being on the streets, the people Dakota was staying with were involved with drugs, had criminal backgrounds, and would sometimes steal Dakota's belongings. Before long, Dakota essentially became a servant for the people living there, as they began forcing him to handle their daily chores, including stripping wires. On top of all of this, Dakota's bank card was stolen, leaving him with no source of income whatsoever and forcing him back onto the streets, where he had to beg for money just to afford food for the day. During this period, Dakota remained active on social media, especially Instagram. Although his following was nowhere near the level it reached during his time with Crazy K, Dakota continued using his platform in an attempt to make money, even directly asking followers for financial help. However, despite his desperate circumstances, Dakota's own behavior also became a major issue. To say Dakota was irresponsible would be a massive understatement. He was frequently rude, often lashing out at even minor criticism online and trying to maintain a tough gangster image by showing off and acting aggressively, as well as repeatedly saying the N-word in an attempt to look cool and maintain the image he was trying to portray. And if this wasn't already bad enough, Dakota was also extremely irresponsible when it came to money. Despite the fact that much of the money he received came from people helping him while he was literally begging on the streets, he would spend it on unnecessary things, such as getting an expensive tattoo. And his audience, who he repeatedly asked for donations from under the reason that he needed money for food, became very upset after seeing this. Many people criticized his spending choices, with one person person saying, "For somebody that doesn't have any money, where in the world do you get the money for a tattoo? Because I know that wasn't cheap, and I don't believe that somebody would donate funds for a tattoo." After spending more than a year living in the abandoned house and being in extremely poor conditions, Dakota would meet someone who would completely change the trajectory of his life forever. This person was called Corkle. Corkle is a social media content creator known for making videos where he helps people in desperate situations and documents their transformations. He had built a massive following online, with more than 1.3 million subscribers on YouTube, making him one of the biggest creators in this type of content, and nearly 3 million followers on TikTok. Corkle met Dakota in November of 2024 while he was driving around on his motorbike wearing an old man costume. Corkle had already recognized Dakota from social media, as Dakota had become well known on TikTok. At the time, Dakota was begging people he met on the street for money so he could buy food for himself and his dog. After hearing Dakota's situation, Corkle felt bad for him and decided to buy him food. However, throughout their drive to the restaurant, Dakota was repeatedly throwing gang signs and cursing so much that Corkle had to censor the entire video. After the video went viral on TikTok and gained millions of views, Corkle decided to meet with Dakota again and continue making content together. Less than a week later, they filmed another video where Dakota opened up more about his life and personal struggles. Corkle and Dakota continued meeting and filming videos for TikTok, and the content quickly became just as viral, if not more viral, than Dakota's early days with Crazy K. Corkle also started creating unique and entertaining content with Dakota, including a prank where Corkle told Dakota they were going to catch a turkey. He then arranged for someone wearing a bear costume to appear, causing Dakota to believe it was real and even become scared at one point.
I was thinking, it's almost Thanksgiving, right? So what I was thinking is maybe there's this place close by to here that has a lot of turkeys. So maybe we could try to catch a turkey for Thanksgiving. Does that sound cool? Let's see what that is. Man, it's like Bigfoot or something.
Yeah.
What the hell? Oh my God!
Drive.
Oh my God!
When that b over.
Oh my God!
Never
What the hell is that?
drive.
This video alone gained more than 200,000 views, which was especially impressive considering Corkle mainly posts short-form content on TikTok, while this was a 10-minute video uploaded to YouTube. But Corkle was not just filming videos with Dakota, he was also genuinely invested in improving Dakota's situation. However, Dakota's behavior often made that difficult. Along with providing food and clothes, Corkle bought Dakota essential items such as glasses and phones, but Dakota would repeatedly lose or break these items, forcing Corkle to replace them multiple times. While Dakota was becoming more famous than ever before and was experiencing a much better situation compared to his time spent in the abandoned house, where he spent most of his days doing nothing or begging on the streets, his living conditions were still far from ideal. Things would become even worse when Dakota was hospitalized after allegedly being thrown down a staircase by 2 people from the abandoned house. According to Dakota's account, he had locked 2 men named Chu and AT out of the house, which angered them. He claimed that they retaliated by throwing him downstairs, leaving him with a serious head injury that required immediate medical attention. Corkle, who was already trying his best to help Dakota, became even more determined after seeing the brain injury Dakota suffered. He decided to do whatever it took to get Dakota out of that house and into an apartment. However, one of the biggest obstacles standing in the way was getting an ID, which is extremely important when trying to rent an apartment. Up until this point, Dakota did not have a proper ID, so Corkle decided to help him get one, and he successfully did. After getting Dakota an ID, Corkle rented a motel room for him to stay in temporarily until he could finally get his own apartment. Although Corkle was doing everything he could to help Dakota himself was not doing much to improve his own situation. In fact, at times he was making things even harder for Corkle. During his stay at the motel, Dakota continued smoking inside the room, which caused additional costs for Corkle. Despite his smoking problem, Dakota's stay at the motel was still a massive improvement. He was finally away from the violence and manipulation he experienced while living in the abandoned house. However, during the final days of his stay at the motel, Dakota would meet someone who would completely change the direction of his life and damage his relationship with Corkle in the months that followed. That person was none other than Felicity. Felicity first met Dakota in the lobby of the motel where he was staying. She initially approached him by asking to pet his dog, but shortly after she directly asked him if he wanted to go on a date. Dakota, who appeared desperate for any kind of female attention at the time, immediately accepted Felicity's request without much hesitation. The two exchanged numbers and planned a day for their first date, but when the day finally arrived, Felicity was nowhere to be found. Dakota called her multiple times and even went to her house to pick her up while carrying flowers as a gift, but Felicity was not there. One important thing to point out is how quickly Dakota became emotionally attached to Felicity. Before their first date even happened, Dakota was already convinced that they were in a relationship. He told Felicity's mother that he was Felicity's boyfriend and even told Corkle that he was in love with Felicity the moment he saw her.
When Dakota was homeless, I got him a hotel for a week and he found a girlfriend. This is him explaining how they met.
So she came outside and
Yeah.
wanted to pet my dog.
Okay.
So I basically got.
So, what's her name? He forgot her name. So the next day I got him a haircut because he has a big date. I even let him pick out some flowers for her. So y'all met yesterday morning and you're already in love? Wow. So do you think it was love at first sight?
Yeah, it is.
Well, she's gonna love the flowers.
I know she is.
He was super excited to see her. And I was excited to see the lucky girl. When we got back to the hotel, she wouldn't answer her phone. So he just went to go knock on her door. I waited around for a few minutes and then I saw some floating flowers. Oh wait, that's just Dakota.
Hi. Is she here?
No, she's with her dad.
Told me to meet her here. I used to live downstairs.
Oh, you did?
I'm a girl boyfriend.
You're her boyfriend?
Know when she'll be here?
No, I don't.
These
I
are
will.
for her.
Those are for her. I will give them to her. I promise. What was your name?
Dakota.
Dakota?
So his girlfriend wasn't there, so he gave her mom the flowers and came back.
From the beginning, many viewers saw several concerning signs with Felicity, but those concerns became even more apparent after Dakota went on his first date with her. Instead of having a normal first date where they would simply get to know each other, Dakota and Felicity went to the mall, where Felicity repeatedly asked Dakota to buy her things. Not only that, but many viewers accused Felicity of being manipulative, especially when she would say things like, "You promised to spoil me," whenever Dakota or Corkle hesitated to give her what she wanted. At the time, Felicity was 21 years old. Despite her young age, she claimed to have had more than 20 boyfriends, and continued maintaining contact with many of them. This behavior would later become a major source of conflict in Dakota and Felicity's relationship, contributing to their repeated breakups throughout the following months, something we will discuss in more detail later. Now, it was April of 2025, and Dakota was still living at the abandoned house. However, the owner of the property suddenly showed up and gave Dakota and the other homeless people living there a one-day ultimatum to leave. Dakota immediately contacted Corkle and begged him to bring a car so he could move his belongings to another abandoned house they had found. Corkle agreed to help. However, when Corkle arrived with the vehicle, the other people living at the house also asked him to move their belongings because they had nobody else who could help them. The process ended up taking the entire day, and Corkle was visibly frustrated, and understandably so. But Corkle was not the only person frustrated. Dakota also became angry and ended up taking his frustration out on his dog by yelling at it and calling it the N-word, despite the dog not doing anything wrong besides simply playing.
At this point, we were waiting for them to move for 2 hours, and Dakota became frustrated.
Bite me.
Don't do that, Dakota. She's just trying to play.
But this was not the first time Dakota had been accused of being extremely cruel toward his dog, which he named Socks. There were allegations that Dakota had bitten his dog multiple times, with some claims stating that even other residents living in the abandoned house had to intervene. After these allegations and the new discussions about Dakota's treatment of his dog went viral online, many people began turning against him, leaving comments such as, "My whole attitude and opinion of him changed after reading that he abused his dog. Anybody that abuses animals is a piece of in my book." So honestly, Dakota gets what he deserves from now on. And another added, "Well, he definitely called his dog the N-word. So many of you all are fooled by Dakota's stature. Being a dwarf doesn't make you a nice person." Soon after Dakota relocated to a different abandoned house, Corkle would finally finish the process of getting him an apartment. For the first time in a long time, Dakota had a place of his own to stay, which was a massive improvement in his life. Meanwhile, in a very surprising coincidence, Felicity would also get kicked out of her parents' house. Felicity's relationship with her parents, especially her mother, appeared to be problematic. Although there is not much public information available about what exactly happened between them, it was clear that there was serious conflict between Felicity and her family. Eventually, after being kicked out of the house, Felicity called Corkle while crying and begging him to pick her up. With nowhere else to go, Felicity decided to move into Dakota's new apartment, despite not being officially registered there. This decision would later create bigger problems for both Dakota and Corkle. After getting his new apartment with Corkle's help, Dakota's situation had massively improved. For the first time, his future appeared much more stable and secure. However, that hope would not last long. Dakota soon allowed the other homeless people from the abandoned house to stay at his new apartment. Many people around approached him because they wanted something from him, whether it was food, clothes, money, or in this case, shelter. Instead of setting boundaries, Dakota continued allowing people to take advantage of his kindness. But this time, Corkle was not willing to let it continue. After finding out what was happening, Corkle did everything he could to prevent these people from coming back to Dakota's apartment. Eventually, most of the homeless people stopped showing up, except for one person named Jimmy. Jimmy was another homeless man who previously lived at the abandoned house with Dakota. After Dakota moved into his apartment, Jimmy began sneaking inside without permission. Jimmy would appear at the apartment while Dakota and Felicity were asleep, steal their belongings, and allegedly engage in disturbing behavior, including being and satisfying himself while sitting on a chair.
So today I went over to Dakota's apartment and learned some terrible news.
And he was messing with his in that chair.
Seriously?
Yes, and I caught his.
You see, Dakota has a problem. He keeps letting this guy come over to his apartment and do horrific things. How'd he get in here?
He walked in here, knocked on the door.
Eventually, Jimmy showed up at the apartment while Corkle was there. Corkle confronted him and scared him away while recording the entire interaction on camera. This confrontation would come the last time Jimmy was seen sneaking into the apartment. Although Dakota and Felicity claimed that Jimmy was entering the apartment without their permission, many people online questioned the situation. They argued that if the apartment was properly locked, Jimmy should not have been able to enter so easily. Some people on Reddit even speculated that Jimmy may have been supplying them with drugs, specifically meth, which Dakota and Felicity had allegedly been using. However, these claims remain speculation from online users and have not been independently confirmed. He is actually one of their meth dealers that they have been letting make himself at home in his apartment, which is strictly against the rules there. Not only that, but there were also claims that Felicity had a interaction with Jimmy in the bathroom. There are videos of Dakota crying and claiming that he found Felicity in the shower with another man, and that man was allegedly Jimmy. Meanwhile, the new apartment was also becoming increasingly filthy and neglected over time. The condition of the apartment deteriorated to the point where many viewers compared it to the abandoned house Dakota had previously been living in. Corkle even posted a video addressing their situation with a caption that said, "Proud of them for returning the Dollar General cart, so I treated them to ice cream. Even prouder when he brushed his teeth and she washed her hair. Way to go! Dentist appointment is coming up," basically celebrating Dakota and Felicity taking care of their hygiene for once in their life. Corkle, the good friend he is, would help them clean their apartment.
So today I came over to visit Dakota because I think it's time to give his apartment a big clean.
I'm thinking of getting rid of these two little sheets in here.
I went through some of his stuff to see if you wanted to get rid of some things.
Yes, I love that. And we're trying to hang it up somewhere.
She was just having a hard time of letting things go. He had this random phone that some crackhead left at his house. Are you keeping that dude's phone?
Yeah, I'm about to show that.
He also had drawers full of cardboard cutouts. Dakota, this apartment's getting really messy. You gotta make sure you're cleaning it.
We'll just gather.
However, the very next week, the apartment had returned to the same condition, with dirt and cockroaches everywhere. As I mentioned earlier in this video, Felicity had been in numerous relationships with multiple men in the past, and she still kept in contact with some of them. This would soon create major chaos. At first, things were simply bizarre. In one instance, one of her ex-boyfriends called her on the phone, and instead of talking to him in front of Dakota, she went into a different room to continue the conversation, which looked very suspicious. When Dakota confronted her about it, she claimed that he was now just her best friend, and that there was nothing more between them. One thing worth mentioning, however, is that during the phone call with her ex-boyfriend, Felicity mentioned that she might be pregnant with his child. Felicity had previously claimed multiple times that she had been pregnant before, but suffered a miscarriage at 34 weeks.
Can you block the haters? The one that was saying that I lost my daughter at 9 weeks, I lost her at 34 weeks. The doctor's already
Me and
told me.
Cora's got you, baby.
Because what am I supposed to do without my daughter? That was my first child. I'm trying to have my second child with my husband.
From that point on, the cycle continued. Felicity would get caught doing questionable things involving other men. Dakota would find out. They would break up, reconcile, and then break up again. The first breakup happened after a photo of Felicity, partially undressed and sitting on someone's lap, began circulating online. The picture eventually reached Dakota, who was so upset by it that he broke up with her. People then began tagging Corkle, questioning why he had not commented on the situation. Before making a statement, Corkle wanted to verify whether the woman in the photo was actually Felicity. After speaking with her, he posted a statement on Facebook explaining that the person in the picture was not Felicity, but someone who closely resembled her. I feel like I have to address this since people are saying I'm no true friend for letting this slide. First of all, to everyone tagging me in this video, this is not Dakota's girlfriend, it is just someone who resembles her. But the damage had already been done in Dakota's mind. He was already being hurt every day by what he believed was Felicity's infidelity. During the time they were broken up, Dakota wrote multiple letters to Felicity and posted them online, which seemed like a very odd thing to do considering he could have simply sent them to her privately. Regardless, these letters would become infamous within the Dakota community, with people eventually dubbing them the breakup letters. To Felicity, I wish we could still, to the point of you were lazy and ate all day. Never could help a little bit, and I never cheated on you. I truly from the heart loved you unlike you done to me. And while that cheating rumor was ultimately proven to be false, the next one was not. Felicity would break up with Dakota and leave West Virginia to be with her new boyfriend, announcing it in the most dramatic way possible while publicly insulting Dakota.
Hey everybody, y'all want an update on me? I'm no longer with Dakota, Michael Harper. I am with a new man. I am no longer with Dakota, no more. I've completely changed.
While this alone created one of the biggest dramas on TikTok at the time, things escalated even further once the identity of her new boyfriend was revealed online. Her new boyfriend was Robert Edward Jr., a 55-year-old man. And to say that Robert was a very bad person would be a massive understatement. Apart from the more than 30-year age difference between the two, Robert was a registered offender with a history of underage girls, and other disturbing allegations. Felicity would spend a few weeks with Robert, and the relationship quickly became just as messy as expected. In text messages to a friend, she claimed that Robert demanded to sleep with her almost every day, to the point where she felt exhausted, and even wanted to get back together with Dakota. Not only that, but Felicity also claimed during a phone call that she had been to men for money while she was with Robert. However, it remains unclear whether she was being forced to do so, or whether she did it voluntarily. In the same phone call, Felicity claimed she was doing this because she needed money to pay a ticket she had supposedly received for trespassing at Dakota's apartment. However, this explanation was heavily questioned. There does not appear to have been any evidence that she was required to pay such a ticket, and when Dakota even offered to pay the supposed fine for her, Felicity refused to accept the money. Despite these inconsistencies, Dakota completely believed her story and felt sorry for her. Eventually, Felicity broke up with Robert. However, in another shocking twist, she initially convinced Dakota that she had gone to South Carolina not to be with Robert, but to attend a funeral with her cousin. Then after a TikTok tea page called Tea with Kiki revealed text messages showing that Felicity and Robert had in fact been in a relationship, Felicity changed her story once again. This time, she claimed that she had only been with Robert for his money and nothing more. But Felicity's return to Dakota's life would only make his situation much worse than it already was. For Dakota, this apartment represented his future, his safety, and a symbol of hope that things were finally starting to get better after everything he had been through. Corkle had worked incredibly hard to get Dakota this opportunity. However, there was one person standing in the way of all that progress, and that person was none other than Felicity. Felicity was living in Dakota's apartment despite the apartment complex's rules, clearly stating that Dakota was not allowed to have another person living with him. While Felicity living there was already a major issue, her behavior made the situation even worse. She was frequently loud and disruptive, creating disturbances around the apartment complex. Eventually, she was banned not only from Dakota's apartment, but from the entire housing complex, after throwing an orange peel at elderly resident. What made the situation even more frustrating was that Corkle had already been trying to help Felicity get her own apartment in the very same complex. Had she simply waited a few more months, she likely would have received her own apartment close to Dakota. Corkle later explained, "I actually took Felicity to apply for housing not long ago, and she was told she would be approved soon. But because of the ban, she now has to wait 4 to 6 years before she can reapply. The ban wasn't just for visiting. There were a few other incidents, including one where orange peels were thrown at elderly residents. And even though Dakota had the apartment, he would eventually leave it and become homeless with Felicity, who apparently didn't love him back and cheated on him."
You guys know how Felicity was trespassed from Dakota's apartment, right? Well, they didn't want to be separated, so they got a hotel together. Keep in mind, Dakota still has his apartment. He's not evicted. And Felicity's parents, they want her home. And they'll even let Dakota come visit. So they both have places to be. Here's how they feel about Dakota's apartment.
He probably will be evicted by tomorrow, I hope. Probably so.
Afterward, Dakota and Felicity decided to move out of the apartment and into a motel, even though Dakota could have stayed in the apartment, and Felicity had the option of returning to her parents' house. Unfortunately, nothing changed. They continued inviting complete strangers into their room despite Corkle repeatedly warning them about the danger they were putting themselves in. Eventually, those warnings became reality. Felicity was cornered by a stranger she had met and found herself in such a dangerous situation that she had to call the police for help. After being taken to the hospital, the person who came to pick her up was none other than Corkle, who had grown increasingly frustrated with both of them. But the final straw for Corkle came when Dakota outright told him to get out of his apartment when he went to visit in early November of 2025, leading Corkle to officially step away from helping Dakota and Felicity. Corkle realized that not only had they shown little appreciation for everything he had done for them, but they had also continued making reckless decisions that undermined all of his efforts. "I have decided to take a step back from spending time with them unless it is truly important or they really need my help. I feel like I have done all I can, and there are things I wish they would do, but I can't force them. I will still be there as a friend to both of them, but I want to start focusing on helping others and getting back to interacting with the public again for upcoming posts." After this, Dakota would start hanging out with people that were drug addicts, wannabe gangsters, and in general that weren't very good for him. And throughout his stay with this people, Dakota would start tarnishing Corkle by saying,
You still making money from content too, right?
Huh?
You still making money from like content too, right?
Nah, just don't be paying me for it.
I thought I'd be paying you.
Nah, this. He be doing that's what he does. He be doing how he got me this place. I think he was just trying to get me away from all my friends. So he'll have more time with him than
Now with Corkle out of the picture, the two of them, Dakota and Felicity, have no way of getting stable income to support their lives, and that is when they start doing cameos, which resulted in another big backlash from the internet. Once they get customers for their cameos, Dakota and Felicity didn't really deliver what they promised, resulting in numerous negative feedbacks on their cameo page of scamming people. To give you broader context, I will read some of the comments made by people who felt scammed by Dakota and Felicity. One person wrote, "She made a 4-second video mumbling. She didn't do any of the instructions, and I paid $22. If you can't do a video, don't waste money and cancel the order. This is extremely inconsiderate. I want my money back from this scammer. You didn't do what I asked at all. Refund me. 0 stars." Despite being flooded with 1-star reviews and overwhelmingly negative comments, Dakota and Felicity dismissed the criticism entirely and continued promoting their cameo accounts as if nothing had happened. If anything, they doubled down. Felicity even uploaded a video mocking the backlash, dismissing viewers' complaints and responding to the criticism with open hostility, rather than addressing the concerns people had raised. Now with Corkle out of the picture, numerous other people would step in to take his place. However, the problem was that most, if not all of them, appeared to want to take advantage of Dakota's fame. One of the people who stepped in to help take care of Dakota was a man named River Daniels. River's not a good person by any means. He is a wannabe rapper who is affiliated with some kind of gang, and even worse, he has been arrested multiple times, all for drug-related charges. So by any means, River was not going to be a good influence on Dakota. This became clear once he started posting videos collaborating with Dakota and Felicity. Being around River appeared to bring Dakota back to his old habits, including his obsession with gang culture, drug use, and other concerning behaviors. Whenever Dakota appeared on camera, he was often seen either throwing gang signs or using drugs. River also frequently brought up Corkle's name and criticized him, accusing him of taking money from Dakota's situation while not actually helping him. Although River's whole promise was to help Dakota, since both Dakota and Felicity were homeless after leaving the apartment, River would soon start asking for money, using their situation as a reason. He began directly reaching out to his followers through DMs and asking them for donations. River wrote, "Dakota sleeps on my couch. I met him through a mutual friend, and we need as much help as possible due to Christmas and the bills. I'm not the one to ask or beg for anything, but I have a 6-year-old son, a 4-year-old niece, and a 2-year-old nephew that I raise. I am a single God-loving father that does the best I can with what I have, but if you could donate anything extra, it doesn't matter if it is $1, Dakota, Felicity, and the kids would appreciate it a lot. God bless you, and we would send you a thank you video." What made this even worse was that he was doing this while simultaneously posting videos of himself showing off stacks of cash and flexing on camera. But soon, things would somehow get even worse. There were serious allegations that River Dakota, with some people even claiming there was a video showing River holding a and laughing, while Dakota was crying. However, despite how serious these allegations are, the alleged video has not been publicly found, leaving the situation as a case of conflicting claims with no publicly available evidence to confirm what happened. Eventually, River would kick the couple out of his house, and then another person would come into the picture by the name Travis. Travis was no better than River. He displayed plenty of questionable behavior and was far from being a positive influence on Dakota and Felicity. Rather than encouraging them to budget their remaining money or get their finances under control, Travis took Dakota to a casino and taught him how to gamble. The timing couldn't have been worse. By this point, Dakota and Felicity were effectively broke, with little to no money left to their names. The last place they needed to be was a casino, yet instead of helping them make responsible decisions, Travis encouraged them to risk what little they had left. After spending some time with Travis, yet another person entered the picture, someone who would create even more chaos in Dakota and Felicity's lives. Her name was Chinna Scott. At first, Chinna claimed that she had found Dakota and Felicity entirely on her own. However, that story was later disproven when it came to light that she had actually been introduced to them through River, who also happened to be her half-brother. Much like River, Chinna quickly began speaking negatively about Corkle as soon as she got involved with Dakota and Felicity. She accused him of scamming them out of their money and claimed that he had never intended to help them in the first place. In contrast, Chinna insisted that she would do things differently, repeatedly promising that she would support them and help them with whatever they needed. Before she ever started posting videos with Dakota and Felicity, Chinna only had a few thousand followers across Facebook and TikTok. After featuring the pair in her content, however, her audience exploded, growing into the hundreds of thousands. The first video Chinna posted with Dakota and Felicity showed her taking them to get their nails done.
You ready to go get your nails done?
Yeah.
You excited?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
In the comments, she clarified that the two were not living with her, writing, "Again, people, they have never been to my house. They came to my mom's for Thanksgiving, and they are staying with a nice lady until they get a place who is neighbors with my mom." Not long afterward, Chinna took Dakota and Felicity grocery shopping, much like Corkle had done before her. Unlike Corkle, however, Chinna's interactions with the pair often came across as forced and overly performative. Rather than feeling like someone genuinely invested in helping them, many viewers felt as though she was putting on a show for the camera. The three also spent Christmas together, with Chinna continuing to document document their time together across her social media accounts. It wasn't long before people began questioning Chinna's motives. As her videos featuring Dakota and Felicity gained traction, many accused her of using the couple to increase her views, followers, and income. In response, Chinna denied the allegations in a Facebook post, stating, "I have not made any money off of them. I do not plan on being the next Korkle, so no worries there. Also, I only bought them what they needed, not wanted." The real drama began shortly afterward. Felicity, who had been staying with a friend, was suddenly kicked out of the house. With nowhere else to turn, she immediately called Chinna for help.
I don't understand. Why did she throw all your outside? Like, I don't understand.
Because she kicked him out, because she doesn't want him around. The lights are on, they're up.
I don't care if they're up.
Let's get inside.
She's not going to do nothing to you, baby. I promise.
I'm
not
scared of
gonna
her.
Baby, I got you. She's not going to do nothing to you. I promise you.
At the same time, Dakota had already been evicted from his apartment. With both of them now out of a place to stay, Dakota and Felicity were effectively homeless. Instead of helping them secure a modest, realistic place to live, Chinna decided to pursue what many considered an unrealistic goal, finding them a 5-bedroom house. It was an ambitious plan that would eventually spiral into an entirely new saga of its own. But for the time being, Chinna would convince her grandmother to stay in her house, which she also was staying at. After Dakota and Felicity moved in with Chinna, she began posting more behind-the-scenes footage of the couple's day-to-day interactions. Many viewers found the videos deeply unsettling. In several clips, Felicity appeared to treat Dakota less like a romantic partner and more like a child, frequently picking him up, holding him in her arms. One clip in particular drew significant attention. Felicity repeatedly pressured Dakota to tell her he loved her while the camera was rolling. The exchange came across as awkward and uncomfortable, with many viewers describing the interaction as forced and bizarre rather than genuine.
He is so happy to be with me. Tell him, baby, tell him.
Yeah.
Tell him why you're so happy with me. Just tell him how gorgeous I am, how pretty I am. I'm gorgeous, I'm pretty. He's got a woman with...
To call the pair lazy would be a massive understatement. Not only did they constantly rely on others for financial support, but they also expected people to take care of basic day-to-day responsibilities for them, including reminding or helping them with personal hygiene and other routine tasks. As much as Chinna benefited from featuring Dakota and Felicity in her social media content, the reality was that they needed her far more than she needed them. Much like their previous relationship with Korkle, the two had become heavily dependent on Chinna for money, transportation, and other forms of support, making it difficult for them to function independently. Despite that, Felicity, who had repeatedly shown a pattern of being ungrateful toward those trying to help her, decided to ask a random person to go to Chinna's house and fight her. Exactly why Felicity wanted someone to confront Chinna remains unknown. However, once Chinna saw the text messages, she became furious. The incident severely damaged their relationship and prompted Chinna to kick them out of the house.
So you're not going to apologize for putting that all over the internet, trying to set me up to be fought? I just wonder when you did it. Did you do it when I took you to Gabe's to get your nails done? When I took you somewhere? Like, when did you do it? When were you trying to have somebody come fight me? While you were here? Like, that's awful. Everything I've done for them. It's crazy. That's why nobody wants to help them. That's exactly why nobody...
Advice, no more.
Well, you're going to be on the streets because that's where y'all want to be.
After Chinna kicked Dakota and Felicity out of the house, she revealed the condition they had left it in. According to Chinna, the home was in a filthy and unsanitary state. She claimed it was littered with trash, covered in clutter, and even had human feces left on the floor. She also said they had made no effort to clean up before leaving. Chinna wrote, "This was after the feces was mostly cleaned up, but you can still see the drips of it in the floor. I can't post the piles because it is just so beyond grotesque. And my stepdad was nice enough to help clean up, so you can only imagine how bad it was before it was cleaned up." These allegations only intensified the backlash against Dakota and Felicity. For many viewers, they reinforced the growing perception that the pair consistently depended on others for housing and support, while taking little responsibility for maintaining the places they were allowed to stay or cleaning up after themselves. Dakota himself would later acknowledge that the accusations were true, admitting that he had defecated inside the house. However, he shifted the blame onto Chinna, claiming that she only had one toilet and that it smelled so bad he couldn't use it.
One bathroom.
It stinks?
Downstairs.
It said China only got one toilet that works and it stinks.
They only got one toilet that
While Chinna did gain thousands of new followers through her collaborations with Dakota and Felicity, her plan to capitalize on the couple's online notoriety did not turn out the way she had hoped. Instead of building a long-term success story, the partnership quickly became overwhelmed by constant drama, public backlash, and a mounting controversy. Ultimately, any short-term boost in attention came at the cost of becoming entangled in the chaos surrounding the couple. With Chinna out of the picture, Dakota and Felicity now had nowhere to go and became homeless on the streets once again. They were also registered with the homeless shelter system in West Virginia, surviving through begging strangers on the streets and relying on food stamps. In the meantime, Dakota's social media accounts were banned, cutting off one of the only ways he had been making money. With no online income left, he was forced to rely almost entirely on begging on the streets. This quickly created another problem. Concerned bystanders repeatedly called the police after seeing what they believed was a child begging for money, unaware that Dakota was actually an adult. Officers were called numerous times, but as people gradually became familiar with him, those reports started to slow down. With Dakota's online presence gone, both he and Felicity faded further into obscurity. The couple posted far less frequently than before, and for a while, it seemed like their chaotic saga had finally come to an end. However, in March 2026, another person entered the story, claiming she wanted to help Dakota, much like Chinna had before her. Her name was Nisha Thompson, and unlike the others, she had actually known Dakota for years. About 4 years earlier, she first encountered him while he was standing on the street holding a sign asking for help. Whenever she happened to see him during her daily routine, she would occasionally offer him assistance. Then, by coincidence, she ran into him again in March 2026 while she was on her way to work. After seeing the condition he was in, Nisha offered Dakota a place to stay under one strict condition: he had to remain sober. Dakota agreed, and for a while he kept his promise. However, there was one major issue: Felicity. Nisha made it clear that Felicity was not welcome to live in the apartment. She described her as loud, disrespectful, and someone she did not want staying in her home. As a compromise, Nisha allowed Felicity to visit Dakota only on weekends, while Dakota lived with her during the week. For a short time, the arrangement seemed to work. Dakota stayed at Nisha's apartment, and Felicity only came by on weekends as agreed, but the peace did not last. Before long, Felicity began sneaking into the apartment almost every day while Nisha was away at work, completely disregarding the rules that allowed Dakota to stay there in the first place. Unlike Chinna, who documented nearly every moment of Dakota and Felicity's stay in her home to generate content and earn money from the attention, Nisha took the opposite approach. She stayed almost entirely out of the spotlight, never posting videos about them or involving herself in the online drama. Unfortunately, Dakota and Felicity repaid Nisha in the worst possible way. During their stay, they allegedly damaged Nisha's television, and in an even more disturbing incident, took her cat without permission. The betrayal proved to be the breaking point. After seeing this, Nisha decided she had had enough. The damage to her home, combined with the alleged theft and abandonment of her pet, left her with no choice but to kick both Dakota and Felicity out of the apartment, bringing yet another rescue attempt to an abrupt end. After that, Dakota picked a completely unnecessary fight with Nisha. It started when he randomly commented "ugly" under a photo Nisha had posted of her 10-year-old daughter, immediately provoking her. But instead of leaving it there, Dakota doubled down, launching into a series of personal attacks. He accused Nisha of only caring about herself and claimed she never cared about him, as though she had ever been responsible for him in the first place. He then escalated things further by publicly criticizing her parenting. In one post, Dakota wrote, "For those who know Nisha Thompson needs to know how she doesn't take care of her daughter. She doesn't discipline her child. She kicked me out after I brought food with my food stamps. And she doesn't care for others, she just cares about herself." The accusation struck many as both deeply personal and unprovoked, especially considering they were directed at someone who had previously tried to help him. It is now May of 2026, and both Dakota and Felicity are back on the streets with nowhere to go, and begging for both online and on the streets. Dakota had created a new Facebook account, and he was constantly begging for money, saying he is hungry and needs help. Soon enough, Chinna re-entered the picture, offering Dakota and Felicity a place to stay, and once again placing herself at the center of the drama. To many viewers, her motives seemed obvious. Chinna's videos without Dakota and Felicity consistently drew far less attention, while content featuring the couple generated significantly more views and engagement. As a result, many believed she had brought them back into her life because they were good for her content. Chinna, however, offered a very different explanation. She claimed that a major television network was planning to produce a documentary about Dakota and Felicity, and that she was simply providing them with a place to stay while helping facilitate the project. That explanation quickly fell apart. Promised television crew never arrived, no documentary was ever filmed, and no major network appeared to have any involvement at all, leaving many viewers skeptical that such a project had ever existed. During this time, Chinna was posting constantly, and many of those videos captured what viewers considered some of Felicity's most cringeworthy moments with Dakota. She would cling to him, yell about how much she loved him, and put on over-the-top public displays of affection that many found uncomfortable to watch. One video in particular perfectly captured the dynamic. It was so awkward that the comment section ended up being more entertaining than the video itself. One commenter wrote, "This is the type of stuff my grandma be doing to her ungrateful cat when she catches him." Despite all of this, Felicity was still cheating on Dakota. Even worse, Dakota caught her talking to none other than Robert, her 55-year-old 26-year-old ex-boyfriend who was a registered offender and the same man she previously ran away with for weeks after leaving Dakota. When Dakota confronted her about it, Felicity didn't deny keeping him around. Instead, she bluntly told Dakota that if things between them didn't work out, she still had Robert to live with. It wasn't just texting either. Dakota repeatedly caught Felicity cheating on him with other men. Each time he would publicly announce that they had broken up for good, insisting they were never getting back together. But almost every time, those declarations lasted less than 24 hours before the two reunited as if nothing had happened. Dakota and Felicity were also having repeated run-ins with law enforcement. In May, Chinna posted a video showing the couple turning themselves into the police, but she offered no explanations of what had happened. With no details provided, the community was left to speculate about why they had been arrested.
Okay, guys, so we are turning Dakota and Felicity in, and hopefully it all goes okay. Felicity, are you worried?
Yes, I'm scared.
Dakota, are you worried?
No.
He's not worried. Everything's gonna be okay. Let's walk, follow me.
Not long afterwards, someone claiming to be a student at the school where the incident allegedly took place shared their version of events on Facebook. According to the post, "They were at my school and the cops got called. They were on our swings and the teachers asked them to leave and they wouldn't. And when the cops forced them out, Dakota tried to jump the fence." Given Dakota and Felicity's history of public disturbances, many people found that account believable. They caused significant damage to the property before leaving. Their relationship quickly deteriorated into a very public feud on Facebook, where Dakota posted a series of hostile comments about Nisha. Following the fallout, Nisha decided to press charges over the incident, bringing yet another police matter into Dakota and Felicity's increasingly chaotic lives, and leading to their arrest on June 14th, 2026 on 2 counts of charges: destruction of property and conspiracy to inflict injury to persons or property. After they were taken to jail, bail was set at $500 for each of them. Through a bail bondsman, they could have been released by paying just 10% of that amount, a total of only $100. Many people expected Chinna to step in and cover the cost. After all, she'd repeatedly claimed that she was helping Dakota and Felicity purely out of the kindness of her heart and wanted to get them back on their feet. But when they actually needed help, she didn't pay them money to get them released. Instead, the pair remained in jail for 3 days before being released on their own recognizance through a personal recognizance bond. Dakota also apologized to Nisha and offered to pay for her TV, further suggesting that tensions between them had cooled down. Felicity and Dakota have apologized to me and my daughter and offered to repay me for my TV. I'm going to write a written agreement and have them sign it in front of a notary. While the couple was locked up, another person named Tiffany also stepped in and started a GoFundMe campaign to raise money for Dakota and Felicity's bail. What made the situation so confusing, however, was Tiffany's connection to Nisha. Tiffany claimed that Nisha was her best friend and even referred to her as her sister. During this time, Dakota and Felicity were living with Chinna. Before long, however, they left her house and began spending more and more time with Tiffany. Even more surprising, they also appeared to have reconciled with Nisha, with the three acting unusually friendly together during TikTok live streams, despite everything that had happened between them. Their falling out with Chinna, however, was nothing short of chaotic. Dakota and Felicity, particularly Felicity, publicly accused Chinna of domestic violence. Felicity alleged that Chinna had given her a black eye and had kept both of them at her house against their will. She later escalated the situation by filing for a domestic violence protection order against Chinna.
We're taking them to the court to file some things because we're done with the harassment. Come on.
Where is it? Oh, it's over here. It's over this way. I know where it's at. Come on.
Yeah, we have to go all the way around.
In the days that followed, Chinna spent much of her time portraying herself as the victim. She uploaded multiple videos, talking about how heartbroken she was by the accusations, insisting that she had only tried to help Dakota and Felicity and never expected them to turn against her. But many people found those claims difficult to sympathize with. After all, this wasn't even the first major fallout between Chinna and the couple. During their previous falling out, Chinna herself had publicly accused them of causing chaos in her home, even claiming that Dakota had defecated on the floor. Given that history, it was hardly surprising that their relationship had once again ended in another bitter public feud. After leaving Chinna's house, Dakota and Felicity moved in with Tiffany, the same person who had previously set up a GoFundMe to supposedly help pay for their bail. But Tiffany wasn't the only familiar face to re-enter the picture. Nisha also appeared to have reconciled with the couple, despite everything that had happened between them. And as if the story wasn't already chaotic enough, another old character made a surprising return: Crazy K. With Tiffany, Nisha, and Crazy K all back in the mix, the drama was about to become even more unpredictable. Tiffany, Nisha, and Crazy K quickly turned their attention toward Chinna, accusing her of mistreating Dakota and Felicity and claiming she was anything but the caring person she portrayed herself to be online. One of the most serious allegations involved a prescription medication called Seroquel. According to them, Chinna gave Dakota and Felicity Seroquel even though neither of them had been prescribed the drug. They alleged that Chinna gave it to them simply because Felicity said she was having trouble sleeping. Chinna initially flatly denied giving Dakota and Felicity the medication. However, she later changed her story and admitted that she had in fact given it to them, contradicting her earlier denial.
She said that she was crying around, they needed to sleep,
They couldn't sleep. They didn't have their medicine. I said, bring me the bottle so I can see the milligram. I said, because I have a low milligram, but I want to check and make sure. And I said, what I have prescribed is all I have prescribed, because I don't get prescribed those anymore. I only had like 4 or 5. So I don't get prescribed them anymore. I don't take them anymore. So I was telling her, like, that's all there is. Like, I can't get any more. Like, we're going to have to take you to get your script. And I told her, I'll call your mom and I'll see what milligram, because she couldn't tell me. And she said, no, don't do that. So I didn't, and I gave them melatonin. I got them a big bottle of melatonin.
The group took things even further by saying they were taking Chinna to court and alleging that criminal charges had been filed against her. While Chinna is far from the most sympathetic person in this story, this was one of the rare moments when much of the community appeared to side with her. From many viewers' perspective, she had at least opened her home to Dakota and Felicity, providing them with food and a place to stay when few others would. Even more striking was how quickly the relationship had unraveled. Less than a month earlier, Dakota and Felicity had been publicly praising Chinna, but now they had done a complete 180 and were accusing her of serious crimes. Ironically, the alliance didn't last very long before it imploded from within. Crazy K began feuding with both Tiffany and Nisha, while Tiffany and Nisha also turned against each other. In one of the story's many unexpected twists, Crazy K even switched sides and began publicly praising Chinna, calling her a good person, and insisting he had never said anything bad about her, as though he hadn't been supporting efforts against her only days earlier. Even more bizarrely, Dakota and Felicity also reconciled with Chinna. Despite everything that had happened, Chinna once again allowed the couple to stay at her mother's house. When Chinna confronted Felicity about filing a domestic violence protection order against her, Felicity denied that it had truly been her decision. Instead, she claimed that Tiffany and Nisha had pressured her into filing it, despite her not wanting to do so. That explanation only added another layer of confusion to an already chaotic situation. By this point, the pattern had become difficult to ignore. Dakota and Felicity would become close with someone, rely on that person for housing, food, or other support, and then eventually have a dramatic falling out before moving on to the next person willing to help them. By now, Dakota and Felicity have become well known on TikTok, but not for the reasons most creators hope for. Their online reputation has been shaped by constant public arguments, repeated allegations of infidelity, endless breakups followed by rapid reconciliations, and an ever-growing list of conflicts with the people around them. Financial struggles only added to the instability, creating a cycle of dependence and public drama that seemed to follow them wherever they went.